and just evolution in general is so fascinating.
You know what's amazing is I talked to Sarah Seeger. There's this whole group of people that look for life. I don't know if you know what exoplanets are.
Yeah.
They look for life out there. You know, some people think that there's Jupiter, moon of Jupiter. Europa has. I mean, it's fascinating to think that there's life currently, or at least recently, on Mars. You know, and it's fascinating to think what the evolutionary process on those planets has resulted in.
Yeah.
And when we show up, I talked to somebody, I forget who. Oh, I think a biologist, the colleague faculty at MIT. He mentioned that, because my worry would be if we encounter life on another planet, it would be destructive to us humans, or we to them, one or the other. Because it's entire. I mean, they can, with this virus we're experiencing now. My natural thought, I don't know what I'm talking about with biology, but my natural thought would be like, when you touch that life, it might basically be a parasite, take advantage of you somehow.
Sure.
But he said that likely it would be, there's a certain kind of distance that happens if it's far enough away in terms of the kind of energy it uses, the kind of environment it's adapted to, that it basically won't even notice humans. Like it won't know how to take advantage of the resources we provide. So that's a hopeful message that we basically could study it safely.
But isn't that just like purely speculative? Because if it's in the Goldilocks zone and you have something that is also carbon-based biological life that is a similar temperature range that it exists in, it easily could eat us.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, from inside. Or
like Pandorum in Avatar. I always felt like that movie was so interesting because it's close, right? It's close. Whatever it is like not Earth, but it's close. And the things that live there they're not human, but they're close. Like you could kind of see that. It's good enough. It's close enough, like the animals and all the weird creatures in the jungle in the Avatar movie.
But the thing is, most likely life will be not close.
Right,
on other planets.
most likely.
It'll be, that's I told you about David Fravor, who I've talked to recently. By the way, thank you I renamed my podcast to just my name.
Yeah.
Lex, when I heard you tell that to Joey Diaz.
Yeah.
Sadly, people should go listen to Joey's he recorded his last Church of What's Happening Now episode.
Yeah.
So you suggested to him that he should do some new thing totally and just name it after himself. And I was like, why the fuck am I have some silly name like artificial intelligence? Just name it like the Joe Rogan Experience. I named it Lex Friedman Podcast.
Yeah.
So anyway, I talked to David for 4 hours. Why did I bring that up? Because
David Fravor. Let's explain who David Fravor was.
Yeah.
He's a fighter jet pilot for the Navy. And he discovered a UFO off the coast of San Diego that, when they tracked it, went from 60,000 feet to 1 feet in a second or less. They don't know how fast it went because it's the blip of a radar, but the thing traveled in an insane way that defies all of our understanding of propulsion, all of our understanding of physics. And this thing also actively was blocking their tracking systems, which is an act of war. If if the Soviet Union or China was doing that, that's technically an act of war. So this thing was doing something that showed that it was intelligently aware of the fact that they are using tracking devices to try to lock in on it. And it behaved and moved in a way that defies all of our understandings of propulsion systems. It didn't give off any heat signature. And the people from the Navy that he was communicating with saying, yeah, we see these every now and again. We don't know what the fuck they are.
So the thing I was going to say, there's a lot of interesting things to say about this, but I just remembered that it felt like from that entire experience that because it didn't have a Chinese or a Russian flag on it, whatever he saw, is we tend to, just the entire system doesn't want to acknowledge it. Like, you don't know what to do with it. So they actually, most of like when you return back to the ship, and there's a bunch of pilots that that saw it. There's a lot of people that witnessed it, and then there's also the video. The majority of the people didn't know what to do with it. They just went on with their day like nothing happened. They kind of made fun of each other or whatever for yeah, sure, bro, you saw aliens, but like they didn't know how to comprehend it. That's what I meant. Like if we encounter life from elsewhere in the universe, we think we would be as a population excited, but it feels like just like with Bigfoot, we're excited by the mystery, like when they're just out of reach. But when they're like among us, there's so many mysteries and cool things among us that we just kind of take them for granted.
Yeah.
And we don't even, or ignore them, actually, even worse. We ignore them.
We get used.
And that was the weird thing. The biggest mystery to me about what David Fravor saw, and then also with the other videos in 2014, something like that, the Go Fast, is like it wasn't a bigger deal than I thought it would be. Like,
Well, big deal was when the Pentagon came out and said that they have recovered some vehicles that are not of this world. Now, they didn't expand on that. There hasn't been more conversation about that. But this is a purely speculation. My speculation is they are slowly spoon-feeding us information to allow people to be more comfortable with the inevitable arrival of something. And if they believe that something's coming, they don't want it to happen all at once. You see what happens just with the pandemic. You see what happens with George Floyd. You see what happens with anytime there's a big shock to our system and there's chaos in the streets, it's unmanageable. And if the UFOs came in the middle of something like that, like Jesus Christ, like who the fuck knows what would go down? If I was someone who's in a position of power, I would say, listen, this information's going to get out. It's inevitable. So why don't we let people know now? Just give them, just in words, say, we have recovered crafts that are not of this world. Say something crazy like that. Print it in the New York Times, get it out there, and then slowly drip out more information. When they see these videos, they'll get more and more accustomed to it. And then eventually to be like masks.
Roswell, plant or whatever it is, planted a piece of technology that we should figure out. There'll be an infinitely powerful generator of love versus destruction. So they're like, okay, these chimps are not going down the wrong path. Let us plant some stuff where they figure out like how to be enlightened.
Mushrooms. That's what they did.
I mean, because they kind of, it's where, from their perspective, the chimps are like a nice video game, like or like a chia pet where you watch them like grow, and they probably, I mean, that's what we would do if we encounter maybe like an ant colony, and we saw that the ant colony is destroying itself. Us from a scientific perspective, we'd want them to not become extinct. So probably interfere in some way to try to prevent the ant colony from destroying itself.
Probably.
So that, as a curiosity, as a cosmic it feels like Earth is a cosmic curiosity from a perspective of an intelligent alien species. Like that's really interesting what's going on there. Let's see what's happening.
A friend of mine told me the story that he saw two mounds of fire ants, and that he did this experiment where he took a bucket and he scooped up ants from one fire ant colony and scooped up ants from the other and then dumped them on the opposite colonies and watched them fight to the death. And I was like, fuck, really? He goes, yeah, they instantaneously knew that those ants were from the wrong colony and they just went to war.
And there's a few good books on ants. They have like a collective intelligence.
Yeah.
Because we tend to think of the individual ants, but somehow as an organism together in the thousands of ants, millions of ants, there's somehow a collective intelligence that emerges. Like there's this whole field of computer science called ant colony optimization. Like,
it is the ultimate who knows question, but goddamn, I wish more people from S4 would come forth. If Bob really did work with all those people and they really were briefed the same way he was, if we could get more of those people to talk, that would be utterly fascinating.
Well, your show a big reach, so maybe this time somebody will hear it
Straight
and come
up.
forward.
Did anybody ever reach out to you that claimed to also have worked with Bob at S4?
A bunch,
Yeah.
And
Did you verify any of them?
no, they could not be verified, and in fact, I think they were lying to me.
And
one
Bob
in
shoots
particular.
people down all the
Yeah.
time. Guys fucking standing on a UFO stage lying bullshit. I mean, so
Right.
no, he hasn't even. He was hoping one other employee would. However, I have had people that work at Area 51 confirm parts of Bob's story. One in particular saw him coming off the or he says he saw him coming off the Janet flights. I said, will you go on record with me that you met Bob there on the tarmac? No. Why? Everything we did there was confidential. We couldn't even tell our wives. Why would I go on record with you?
And if he did go on record, he'd probably get harassed or arrested or...
Yeah, he can't tell you what he ate for lunch out there. You know, that so, and one of the guys I was real excited to talk with just recently passed away. He actually started the bar that was at Area 51. So everybody told the bartender stuff. He started as a flower fund because no one would send flowers to wives when people died out there. But my point is, people have come forward to George, to me. A lot of people are lying, but it adds up over time, man.
I got more than 2 people who have come to me with bits and pieces of the story, who had worked out at Area 51 that I confirmed were out there. Security people who had seen a disc under a tarp in a hangar. Different people had worked there at different times, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, who had little pieces of the story, not to confirm Bob. And then there was one that I pursued. I don't know if you want to keep going on this, but sure. I had pursued this guy. I was trying to find in the early 90s people who were in a position to know about what goes on out there, and I found one. And he had been active in the nuclear weapons program. He had worked for EG&G. He had EG&G had the contract to manage Area 51 from the beginning, all the way through the first 30 or 40 years of it. And so I started basically stalking the guy. One of his sons was a state senator, and he had told me, he confided to me, that you got to ask my dad about UFOs and aliens. And another son had been an FBI agent. So I stalked the guy, introduced myself. There were a couple of public events where I would just show up, and he finally got confident enough in me to invite me to his home. And he gets out these scrapbooks, and he's showing me these stories and clippings and photos from the nuclear weapons program. And I'm watching and taking notes and stuff, and suddenly he closes the book and he goes, "You're not here to talk about this nuclear weapons, are you?" I said, "No, not really." And his wife walks in and she says, "Oh, you're not going to tell him that stuff, are you?" And then he started telling me. And then over the course of 2 years, I would meet with him, have a cup of coffee somewhere. I couldn't take notes. I couldn't record anything, but he told me the story. Now, this guy actually is someone that you've had reference to on your show. Remember Annie Jacobson, her book about Area 51?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same guy, but the story that he told me was different than what he told her. He said that they eventually told me that they had a live alien out there, that I could not go public with this until after he died, that they had craft, that it was in a special spot. Originally it was at Indian Springs, which is now Creech Air Force Base, and then it was moved to Area 51 when 51 became active, and that it was a very small group that tried to analyze this stuff. They didn't know where it was from. They didn't know how we obtained it. He said this thing was alive, and that they eventually were able to communicate with us, and told me that he was going to make a videotape and he was going to make it available so that after he died, I could have it. Well, suddenly, 2 or 3 years later, he totally changes his story. What had happened was there was a congressional investigator. His name was Richard D'Amato, and he worked for Senator Robert Byrd, and he oversaw black budget projects. And he got onto this UFO story from Whitley Strieber. And so he was assigned, find out what the deal is. So he went around the country, talked to different researchers, and came to me and wanted to know about Area 51 and Lazar. So I told him a story, and I told him about this guy. And he got permission for this guy to violate his security oaths and talk to him about it. And they had multiple conversations, and they went to the founders of EG&G, the company, and it became a dead end. But after that congressional inquiry, this guy completely changed his tune. So he made up this story, which is the one that you heard from Annie Jacobson, that what crashed at Roswell was a Russian technology, Nazi technology, flown by the Russians, containing little concentration camp victims who'd been experimented on by Dr. Mengele. Completely ridiculous, story. But I think he got scared. He was a real guy in a real position to know, and had shared with his family some of this information. I think the story that he told me, legit. But if he made the tape, which I think he did, I didn't get it.
How much time has been wasted talking about bullshit in this subject?
Centuries.
That's part of the problem, isn't it?
People just make up.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
more fanciful and ridiculous, the better. Unfortunately, people pay more to
Yeah.
hear that and consume it.
I had an operation one time after his art thing, somebody who was targeting me, and he had other people helping him that can convince me that he had worked out there with live aliens. And I'm getting letters from his, supposedly written by his neighbors. Hey, you got to check this guy out, Dr. I'll just say X. He was taken away by armed security in the middle of the night. I think he has something to do with aliens. And from out of the blue, then suddenly I am at a planetarium event, and I'm going to speak about UFOs at some event at this community college, and the guy shows up in a men's room. Hey, my name is Dr. X, standing there at the urinal. You're not doing a story about me, are you? So no, who are you? What? This was a concerted effort to get me to believe that he had worked out there. And it went on for a couple of years. And of course, it was complete bullshit. When I finally did dig into his background, I was able to document where he had worked and what he'd been doing through most of his life. And it was just like a fantasy role playing.
There's some shit going down with UFO sightings.
Oh yeah,
I guess
yeah.
those videos they've played before.
Well, yeah,
I
but
don't know that they were new.
here
but
I'll send it to you.
I've been following this stuff.
Yeah, it's hold on a second, Jamie.
This thing.
All right, I just texted it to you. Pentagon officially releases UFO. This is the tweet. It says, new Pentagon formally released 3 mysterious UFO videos captured by Navy pilots. The already leaked videos showed what DoD insists on calling unidentified aerial phenomenon, moving at incredible speeds and performing near impossible maneuvers. This is a weird subject because it's one of those subjects where people automatically dismiss it because it's been so touted by kooks. There's so many wacky fucks that have talked about UFOs that anybody talking about UFOs has to be out of their fucking mind. But then when you see these videos and you see them performing these impossible tasks, like these things are moving in a way that we've never seen anything move before, flipping upside down and sideways, moving at insane rates of speed. Like, they don't know what these are.
Yeah.
Real phenomena.
What's interesting was I was reading one of these stories, and they passively mentioned that thing was near a U.S. naval like technology station of some sort, like a top secret development. And I'm like,
That could be one of two things. Either it's developed by the people that are at that base, or they're monitoring the people that are at that base. These aircraft, we call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory nor any foreign inventory that we are aware of. Maybe they see this shit that's going down with China and all the ships being moved and like, listen, you fuckheads.
the aliens.
Yeah, maybe they're like, listen, you fucking morons, you territorial apes.
I'd like to think that, but
You don't think so?
Manhattan Project, man. I mean, the U.S. has got some crazy motherfucking weapons. You know?
Could be, but the Manhattan Project was also coincidentally right after they started detonating bombs when the aliens started showing up.
That's what they think, right?
Yeah, well, that was when the bulk of U.S. sightings started jumping. And wide, I believe, too.
You know, maybe we've slowly been more and more information about this. I've been actually reading a lot of these stories over the past several months. More admissions from government, more release of documents, and more sightings. So there's been a big, I don't want to call it, well, a lot of people murmuring that April was going to be the month when we finally.
Almost up.
It's almost up.
We got like a few days.
Nah, man.
The 27th?
You know what I used.
More days is left.
Do you know?
30? 30?
Do you know about what happened? Do you know about the O'Hare Airport sighting?
Which one's that?
So this was, I think, in like 06 at Chicago's International O'Hare. A UFO came down and hovered above. I can't remember which terminal it was. It hovered for a few minutes, I think, and then shot straight, punched a hole in the clouds. Everybody saw it happen. Now, I had just quit working at O'Hare around this time when the sighting happened. So friends who were still there. I had a friend tell me that when this UFO came down, people on Mannheim Road, which is the road on the side of O'Hare, got out of their cars, like just stopped the light, got up, and were looking and staring at it. And that the people who were working, where we worked for American Eagle Airlines, walked out of the rooms and were just staring at it float and then jump and punch a hole in the clouds. And you know what they said? Weather phenomenon. So there's a photo of it. A pilot took a photo of it. This is back when like very early phone cameras, so it's a very grainy, awful picture.
There it is right there.
That's not it. No, that's super fake. I think
I don't know.
no. These are all people trying to fake. It's really hard to find. That one is not That one might be it, but I don't think so. It barely looks like
Chicago
anything.
O'Hare UFO sighting 2006. Is that it
Yeah.
right there?
I do not believe those are it. No. So
Click on that article. See what it says, Jamie.
That's just some blog.
that one might be on the left, but so many people try putting this stuff for clicks and for views, and they make these fake photos. And
That
it was
link's not working?
I've clicked on it a few times. It's just,
it was a very very faint photo from the cockpit. It might be that one right there in the middle. On the on the left side.
Far left?
It might be that one. No, that's not it. That's not it. Well, there was a really crappy photo of it, and
That might be it.
that might be. It was out of the cockpit of a window. A pilot took a photo, and I wonder where have all the sightings gone since phones became ubiquitous. I mean, this is a simple, I guess excuse. The aliens, they're sentient. They know we have phones. They're like, okay, stop, decloaking or whatever. But I wonder if why is it there were so many UFOs, and then around the time cell phone cameras come out, they're gone.
Well, I think most people are full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people like to pretend they see things that don't really see things. But
Yep.
I don't think that excludes the possibility. It's not like it's not like these things are mutually exclusive. Like people are full of shit, therefore aliens don't exist. I think aliens could be real and people are full of shit. And I think that it's very rare that they visit us. But if they
Why
do,
would they?
well, how often do scientists go to the Congo to study chimps? I mean, how many people do they send to the bottom of the ocean to look for new life forms? How rare is it?
Let me trip you out. We put decoys up for animals. Animals can't tell the difference. If you've actually met a decoy person, you couldn't tell the difference.
Maybe it's you, bro.
Maybe it's me. That's right.
And that's why you're able to work so much.
Oh yeah, I'm a robot.
You don't get tired.
No.
So you're news, disseminating factual evidence.
Because what I'm actually doing is collecting a database for the aliens. No, but I thought about this because I saw a photo on Reddit of a puffin, I think it's called, the bird, and they put up a fake puffin, and it's because I think they're called puffins. It's because the birds don't like nesting in places where they're alone, and so by putting the decoy there, the other birds would start coming, and like one bird showed up and was hanging out with the decoy, and I'm like, could you imagine you see we put duck decoys in the water, we do duck calls, and the duck's like, ooh, hey, fly honey, I'm gonna come over and check this out, and it's like a wood block. Could you imagine seeing a beautiful woman or someone you're attracted to and being like, "Ooh, look at that!" And it's really like an alien decoy just to probe you and let her understand you or something.
Well, the decoy, just the term are used for hunting. Turkey, it's turkey season right now.
Yeah.
And the way most guys hunt for turkeys, they take a rubber turkey. You put that fucker out in the middle of the field, and then you hide behind a bush with a shotgun. You go, bark, 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 bark. And then the turkeys hear it, and they come over and they try to get some pussy, and then they get shot.
So what if you see some dude or for you it'd probably be a beautiful woman, you want to get that pussy, and and then she's going like, hey, come over here, and you're like, oh, and
then I get eaten.
No, they just take you up in the ship, probe you, and learn about your butt.
This is putting things up your butt.
I'm
Most
just kidding,
doctors don't even do that. They have MRIs now. Do you think aliens need to probe you in your ass? I think it's just what everyone's afraid of. They're afraid of things going in their ass. So that's what they think is going to happen if the aliens get them. They're going to freeze me and touch my ass.
Somebody told the dumb back in the day, and it was the most sensational, and everybody had to have it. So they were like, that's what they went with.
Maybe they do that to keep your mouth shut. They fuck you in the ass just so you keep your mouth shut.
Or some dude actually did, right?
Yeah.
And he comes back and he's like, they think they won against me. They think they beat me. They put stuff up my butt. They're weirdos.
Do you ever hear
They're
the story of Betty and Barney Hill?
No.
It's the very first UFO abduction story. It's an ancient story. And what's crazy is Angela Hill, who's a UFC fighter, I had her on the podcast. And after the show, she told me her grandpa was Barney Hill.
Whoa.
And I was like, holy fuck. We didn't talk about it during the show, but she wanted to bring it up because she knows I'm kind of obsessed with UFOs. But the account that they have, they get hypnotized and he's recalling the abduction and they have the same story. It's very terrifying. You hear him crying and screaming and, that he was taken aboard this craft and examined and brought back and they have missing time. But here's the thing. If they only did that occasionally, they only came down once every few years and just scooped some person up in the middle of some rural place. If you're flying over, I think their instance was I believe it was in Maine. If you're flying over somewhere like Maine, which is a very low population state, and you see a lone car and it's just traveling along the highway, and there's places in Maine where you go from Portland to Bangor, when you're traveling on that road, it's like 60 miles with nothing, not a gas station, nothing. If you were an alien and you saw a car by itself, you're like, no other car, let's move in. We got one.
Isn't it just easy to get to the U.S. government?
No.
Why not?
Because we don't have the capability of doing something like that. I don't think the capability of the scientists working for the government is any different than the capability of the scientists that are working for, Project X or, fill in the blanks in terms of like what Raytheon, publicly traded companies.
How long? Look, quadcopters don't seem all that complicated to me.
Quadcopters.
Yeah, like a
helicopters,
like drones. We've seen the little drone toys you buy. They got 4 propellers. Take that concept, use their jets, and surround it in a disc so that it's universally like it can move in any direction because it's got
the gas tank.
Well, lithium-ion battery, or
come on, man. You're talking shit. Like this hasn't even been invented yet. Think about how little mileage you can get out of a Tesla. As advanced as Tesla is, still when it's going full out, it can only go for. I mean, you get 307 miles if you drive like a grandma, but if you drive like a maniac, you don't even get half that.
I could be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure that they had this flying platform in the 70s that uses gas power. They've also had jetpacks for a long time.
No, they've sort of. They've had jetpacks that are capable of going for like 30 seconds. They don't. I've experienced.
No. I'm pretty sure the jetpack in the day went for a long time.
No, they definitely didn't.
We can look it up.
Yeah, let's look it up because they definitely didn't. The whole thing was the fact they were burning gas, and to propel you in the air, they only had a certain amount.
I thought it was like 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Maybe now.
My understanding why we abandoned jetpack technology was that it was inefficient and heavy, and you couldn't carry it without it being turned on. So they opted for larger, what are they called? Chinooks, helicopters that can carry multiple people at once. When you're jetpack, it has to be on idle, negating its own weight, which means it's burning as you're walking around, which means you get a good 20-minute jump and you got to abandon the tech. And then you don't want your enemies to get it.
Have you ever seen a guy with a jetpack?
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube.
No, I mean in real life.
Oh, I've seen that one guy then, dude.
Well,
not in real life.
I've been there in real life. Willie B from in Denver on the radio.
Yeah.
He had a radio show in the morning. I used to do his radio show. I think he still has a radio show. Shout out to Willie. And he had this guy who was a jetpack pilot who came in and in the parking lot of the radio studio, and fans of the radio show came and did it too and watched it rather. And this guy flew in the air for about 15, 20 seconds and then landed. This guy was so banged up. Both of his legs were blown apart. He had big braces on both of his knees. I'm like, what happened to your knees? He's like, just crash landing. Both my knees are blown to shit. He had no ACLs in either one of his knees. But
that's what I'm saying.
It's good for, this is Ben. It was good for about 30 seconds. 30 seconds of flying.
Well, so what I'm trying to get to is if you take something like a quadcopter, you could absolutely fuel it with
It'd be loud as fuck.
But it would. Depending on how you mitigate
the
noise.
It'd be an engine.
Yeah.
It'd be loud as fuck.
And you'd hear from the quad rotors.
Yeah, but what these people are describing is nothing like that. These people are describing things that are silent, that go from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour in a split second, things that defy physics as we understand them.
Yeah.
This is not something that I think that the U.S. government has. If you look at like Elon Musk company, Project X or SpaceX. SpaceX is right now one of the premier civilian companies, private companies that's making rocket ships. They fuck up all the time.
Totally.
They're in the middle of innovating all the time. He's one of the smartest people on earth. He's one of in terms of technology, he knows as much about propulsion as anyone, and they still can't get it right. They're still trying to figure it out. They're trying to come up with something that could be viable in terms of commercial space flight, and they're working on it daily. And these people are the brightest minds we know of right now that are in this jet propulsion space travel business. There's, Virgin's working on something. There's a couple other companies that are working on things as well. And then you have NASA, which worked. The best they could come up with was the space shuttle.
Right.
Do you think that there was something way better than space shuttle that they just never used and that they had and they kept it on the back burner, didn't want to let anybody know, but the way they would use it is they would pick people up and erase their memory and toy with their asshole? That's crazy.
Well,
that's less likely than the hundreds of billions of galaxies just in our own known universe, right? each one with hundreds of billions of stars, each star with who knows how many fucking planets. That's somewhere out there that's something more advanced than us. Maybe 1,000 years, maybe 1,000,000 years.
But
that's figured out how to come here.
I got the same question then. Why hasn't anyone discovered them? Why has he failed? Search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Why
Full of
haven't they
nothing.
invented guns? Why haven't they invented guns though?
I don't know.
Hasn't said he found UFOs. It's the same fucking answer. They're not advanced enough yet. It's a real simple answer. The industrial age is pretty fucking recent.
Right.
I mean, you think about when people invented cars. You're talking about 1800. That's really recent.
And we've
plane
only used
flights, 1800s.
High power radio transmission is only in the past 100 years or so.
Right. Well, you saw the movie Contact.
Maybe it's an old one, right?
It's Joster and Matthew McConaughey. It's based on Carl Sagan's book about contact with space and with aliens, how it's going to go down.
I think I did see it recently. I can't remember.
Interesting take on it. But
the
idea is that they've received the signal that we sent out way back, in the day. Actually, when the first broadcast signal was Hitler announcing the Olympic Games, the start of the Berlin Games, and this was the first signal they got. It was a really controversial moment in the movie, or controversy, in the plot, with that once they were trying to decipher the image that was being sent, they realized it was Hitler.
Yeah.
The first thing they see is a swastika, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
They sent it back to us,
and then they had to realize, "Oh no! This is the first image that we sent out to space." They wouldn't be able to understand the political or historical context of this, and
well, so I got a few. There's a few to see in terms of aliens and detect, right? We are substantially more kind of in an evolutionary chain to ants than we are to any alien. So we can't communicate with them for the most part. We kind of can. We understand how they communicate. But when an ant sees a superhighway, this is someone else's quote. They don't think twice. So it's possible there are ants that have superhighways right above us. We can't tell what it is. Same as it doesn't understand other than stay away from it. But one of the issues I think is often neglected in the conversation about aliens is the we assume aliens would be on a very similar planet to us. We assume that have some kind of gaseous atmosphere. Perhaps it's a liquid atmosphere. And one of the things that I would ask of a researcher, because I'm not the expert, is the fact that we have the proper balance of oxygen in the atmosphere to manipulate fire, which allows to separate elements and then create computers and components and fuels, wouldn't exist on a planet without this atmosphere we existed in.
Okay, stop. I can answer that easily.
Yeah.
There's no known propulsion system for any of these crafts. These things are not using fire. They don't have a heat signal. They don't know what they are. They don't know how they work.
I don't mean propulsion. I mean the separation of elements, the manipulation of elements, right? So we melt things and separate them and break them.
They don't believe that that's how it works.
No, but I mean, like, how do you even from? I'm sure there's an answer. Let's say you have a species that lives on a planet with no oxygen and has no access to fire. What energy, dense energy source do they have that will allow them to manipulate matter?
Do you know the Bob Lazar story?
I do.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that he talked about when he first stopped working for Area S4 and the government was tapping his phones, and there's a lot that can be documented about him. There's a lot that can't be. But one of the things that he talked about was a thing called element 115.
Right. That
element 115 is this insanely dense element that they use to bend gravity. And that the way he described the way the propulsion system works, it's like putting a bowling ball in the center of a very soft mattress, and that all of the other mattress, all the rest of the mass of the mattress bends around the intense mass of the bowling ball, and that this is how these incredibly advanced aliens from this other planet use. This is their propulsion system.
That was
they
from
use this.
From Star. The concept of was around for a really long time.
I think the concept is based on Einstein's theory of gravity. I mean, this is the whole idea. If you could find something that could do that. But here's the thing. When Bob Lazar talked about this in the late 80s, early 90s, this element didn't exist.
Right. Now it does.
It wasn't proven until they did it in a particle collider. I believe it was 2013. So he was talking about this element far before it was, and he's apparently, this is the big rumor, he apparently had taken some of that from a lab and through George Norrie, and was it George Norrie? Yes. They did some experiments on on television and showed that this stuff had made light and fog bend in a way that they couldn't describe.
He also didn't he also claim this small alien creature on his way out?
He said he saw something sitting down, but he doesn't know if it was a model that they were using, like if they had created something that was supposed to be the size of a thing that could fit in these crafts, because these crafts, he said, were designed for things that were far smaller than human beings.
I'm pretty initial interview he gave when he went public was that he saw an alien, and then later on changed it saying, I don't know if maybe a model or a puppet.
Yeah, he thought he saw something sitting down and two people standing over it looking at it. He said he thought he saw an alien.
You know,
But he's probably, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, he said it was literally for like a half a second. Like he's walking by a window and he sees something inside of it. Imagine being a guy who's in your 20s and you're a propulsions expert, and it's been proven that he worked at Los Alamos Labs, and it's been proven that he did put a fucking jet engine. It's been proven that he did put a jet engine on a Honda. I mean, he's a genius. He's and you talk to him, he's an incredibly smart guy. Now imagine you get sent off to Area S4, and they show you this thing that you know doesn't even exist, and they tell you about this propulsion method that they don't understand, and they say that they found this a long time ago in an archaeological dig, and they want you to back engineer it because you're a propulsions expert, and they're running out of options. They've been studying this for decades. No one knows what the fuck it is or how you can make it work. And then they do test flights with this thing. And then he tells his friends about these test flights. After he gets fired, you know how he got fired? Do you know a story about him getting fired?
he leaked it or something. Yeah?
No, his wife was fucking her flight instructor.
Oh.
And so when his wife was fucking her flight instructor, they told him he couldn't work anymore. And he's like, why not? Well, they were tapping his phone because when you have top secret clearance to work on UFOs, I guess they don't want your wife fucking her flight instructor, because then you're going to go crazy, and you have a lot of imbalance at home, right? So he doesn't know why. They don't tell him why. So he takes his friends and he tells them, listen, this is real. They're running these experiments. I know you're thinking I'm crazy. This is what I've been working on. So he takes them to this area where you used to be able to have access to, but once he did this, they closed off access and pushed it far back to where the public has access to. And he showed them these things doing these impossible maneuvers in the desert, in the night sky.
This I remember.
And so then he gets arrested. And so when he gets arrested, he was in fear of his own life. He goes public and tells this whole story. And then they erase his past. They erase his social security number. They erase his education background. Even though people that knew him and knew he worked at Los Alamos Labs, he takes George Norrie of a tour of Los Alamos Labs, knows the people that work there. They all say hi to him. He takes them on a tour around the laboratory.
Yeah.
Shows them around, shows them the devices they use for biometric security. And
I think the one thing you can't is that there was documentation that he did work at one of these places.
Yes.
And they later claimed he didn't.
Yes.
And like I think I was watching the thing on, maybe it was Netflix. I think like he promoted that, right? It was on Netflix. They showed the paper, like we found it.
Yes.
Like he clearly was there.
the employee register.
right.
Yeah. No.
But you know, for me, man, I'd love to believe it all.
He's been insanely consistent about that story.
Yeah.
For 40 years.
I'd to believe. You know what I mean?
Or 30 years, whatever it's been. Yeah, I want to believe too. That's the
But
problem.
man,
The
Pixar
problem
didn't
is
happen.
I want to believe, but
Yeah.
that's nonsense. Pixar, it didn't happen is nonsense.
Well,
how do you what about Neanderthals?
No, that's
what dinosaurs? There's no pics.
I'm more so joking, right? What I
Yes,
mean is,
I understand.
show me the evidence, right?
I get it.
You know, the challenge with any theory, I don't like saying conspiracy theory because they're not always conspiracies, is that people want something to be true. And so they end up looking for things to just what they think it already is.
Of course.
Instead of starting with what you've got and trying to figure out where it goes from there.
But when you start with what you got, you've got a guy who was living in Vegas, was taking these flights out to Area S4, knows the place, knows it inside out, can describe it very accurately. Also worked at Los Alamos
this
Labs,
proves he was there.
describes that very accurately.
Right.
Yeah.
It proves he worked there.
It also proves he's a legitimate scientist.
But what
I mean, when you talk to the guy, he's a brilliant guy. He's not a nut.
Right.
But what?
Are you aliens?
That doesn't mean
So
it doesn't mean aliens, but that's what he was told.
Right.
What he was told is this is something that has come from somewhere else, and they're trying to figure out how to work it, how to use it.
What if we're in a simulation and this was something that was leftover code, or it wasn't placed in this certain iteration?
Or would there's multiple dimensions that we don't have access to, and that these things do?
Now, I'm not in. Believe it or not, I'm not into UFOs. I don't follow stories or.
Even after your experiences?
No, I'm fascinated with the technology, and it irks me like every night I go to sleep that I don't. that it was my own doing essentially that did me from continuing on in the project. I mean, it's that to be on that cutting edge of technology is so alluring to me.
Right.
But by the same token, I don't really care that there's aliens or where they come from. I mean, the prize is the technology, and that's what I'm fascinated by. But so I don't listen to UFO stories and that sort of thing. But George Knapp is he's the guy that has the contacts and tries to thread everything together. And what he recently told me is he found, I don't know, it was either documentation or people that he spoke to. It's that the existence of this project, the project that I was on, it's something that they seem to take out every 8 or 10 years.
So that's a very specific, and this is actually, this is the first time I'll be very clear with people about it. It's a big topic of conversation right now. It's called the Wilson Memo. You can look it up. Admiral Wilson met with a scientist who's actually was featured in one of my films. Everybody has been debating whether or not this document of a conversation with a sitting admiral at the time is a real document. It's an actual conversation that happened, and this document is real. Everybody wants to know. The world is going crazy right now in the UFO world. I'll tell you straight up right now, I'm in the position to know, and it is a real document, that it is real. So the conversation you read in that conversation was had. I can't attest to every...
You're not being very clear.
Sure.
Please.
So there was a document that is circulating right now that is really big. It's going around everywhere. People are asking and
What is
wondering-
this document?
It's called the Wilson Memo, is how you can find it online, or the Wilson Leak.
There it is. Jimmy's got it. The Wilson Memorandum. Use of human volunteers.
No,
I just wanted to make sure that was it. Yeah.
No, that's
No?
not it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist, and they have this discussion, oddly enough, at special projects at EG&G. And if I remember, the document is from 2001. I'm telling everybody right now, it's real. And we'll see. My history is pretty good with saying if something's real or not, right? So here we go. The document comes out. They meet at EG&G Special Projects. In 1989, they stumble into a problem. This happens. They put the technology away, and then they bring it back out and see if material science has caught up and if they can make any progress. So this document kind of talks about this process. The big thing I get from it, and a lot of it's vindicating to Bob, and one of the things that's vindicating, besides the EG&G thing, is that private industry, so this guy's an admiral, and he says, I found out about your SAP, your Special Access Program. I need to know about it. And he's going to a private part of industry, and he is denied access. And he says, I should be running this program. And they were able to deny him access. So I think the takeaway here is, check it out. I'm telling you that is an actual correct, that is a leak. Now, everything said in that document, I don't know.
What are you talking about? What is said in that document?
It's between a scientist and an admiral that are sitting, and they're having a meeting, and they're talking about the search for the UFO subject, the search to get Special Access Program access to all of these different things like reverse engineering programs. So in this document, they talk about it. I believe that this document, the person that went was employed by Robert Bigelow, one of the guys that has a couple of orbiting satellites and all that stuff.
He's the guy at Skinwalker Ranch.
No, he's not. He was the guy that owned
He used to
Skinwalker.
own it. Okay.
Yeah, he used to own it. There's a new owner, and I interviewed him for my other film, but there's a new owner, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that soon. But there's stuff that you'll be hearing about Skinwalker Ranch soon because there's a new owner. Anyway, the whole point of this insertion here is just that document kind of validates a lot of this idea Bob just said, that they make a little progress, then they can't go anywhere. They tuck it away, and then they bring it back out, 10 years later and start working on it. What is the limiting factor? I think Bob should speak on this, but it's the material science.
Yeah, it's really where physics is. So I can see them doing that. I mean, I didn't have any information on that, but I think what George uncovered is probably accurate. That we try and do what we can, and once we reach a roadblock going, we really can't figure it out. It's just friggin' wait, put the thing away, wait for science to catch up, and a decade later, let's take the project out again and see. All right, now where can we go?
But there's got someone who remains informed, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
So you've got your scientists like you and Barry. You got your people that you compartmentalize. You got these people working on
Yeah,
this
there
project.
has been people
Right.
that know everything.
You've got security, and then someone's going to be on the outside saying, hey, we need people to guard this building. Don't let it even for 10 years.
I think a lot of that is private industry, and that's how
Really?
they keep it. Yeah, I think that's how they because the government is just so leaky. I think that's kind of what they're doing.
That's what the document proves. You just articulated that it is in control of private industry.
What, some aerospace company?
I don't know.
Yeah, they would. The guy admiral wouldn't name it in the car
Right.
in the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So they still have these things, supposedly.
I would get. I mean, I don't have any information on
Have
that
you
at all.
ever asked anyone that has any inkling of idea of where they got them or how they got them?
No, but some must have been said to me from Barry, but it was just too long ago, and I can't quite remember what was said, but it just left a seed in my mind. I think at least one of them was part of an archaeological dig. So it's old. At least one of them is old. I don't know if it was the one I worked on, but I remember something to do with an archaeological dig.
Well,
So that means it's not just old; it's ancient.
that'd be
Yeah,
right.
as all of it would. Yeah.
Yeah.
That tripped me
as
out when he did that for the first time.
Yeah, that's a right
Yeah.
there. Just a couple of dudes with some brushes looking for a Tyrannosaurus Rex bone. They
And-
hit metal.
And when find it, that they have 9 of them.
Yeah.
Well, and how could we have not heard about that? What about the guys with the brushes? How could
Yeah.
you uncover something like that? And
Well, Joe's newspaper at home does. I mean, they said it on that first.
Oh, you mean the Roswell
Yeah,
Billy
yeah, the
record?
one you told me. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a cover. What is this here, Jamie?
This is the document, but I had to do some digging to find it.
Yeah, it's just kind of. Yeah, so this is where they meet at EG&G, and this is Admiralson, and there's a lot more coming out. Now, I want to be clear, George didn't put this out. He didn't leak this out to anybody. This is, I can tell you how
Who
I.
recorded this conversation?
So there's an employee of, at the time, Robert Bigelow.
And this is
Remember when he had that government contract called OSAP, the world all knows about now, and he had NIDS that studied the ranch. So that $22 million, everybody is saying it was for ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The $22 million was for OSAP that was pushed through Congress, 3 congressmen, right, an astronaut. It was pushed through. And that's what that $22 million, by the way, they spend more money on Viagra every year than they do studying UFOs if it was just this program, which I think is funny.
they probably a lot
Military.
more money from Viagra
They
than
do.
from UFOs too.
Well, you know how it seeds into population. But anyway, this program, this is what was the mother program. So it got the $22 million. And really, it was to study Skinwalker Ranch. Oddly enough, that $22 million all was inspired by the phenomenon they were seeing at Skinwalker Ranch because the scientists, they're seeing vehicles come through like a space in the sky.
Yeah, I went there
Right,
with Duncan.
yeah,
we interviewed a bunch of people that seemed full of shit, but a couple that didn't.
But
It was
the-
very, very interesting.
Totally. And if you look a lot of time in the area, I'm not talking about those stories. I'm saying there were scientists hired by the government, right, through Bigelow to study the ranch because they thought it was important. And, whatever. The point is that $22 million was to study that. Then we have ATIP, which is like an auxiliary kind of program of military sightings, like Commander Fravers and that sort of thing. This document is just one of those things that has now come forward that through the Bigelow studies, it was government funded, and then it was personally funded and then government funded. It's just one of those things that kind of shakes you because you got this military guy who can't get access because of the private industry that's holding these non-terrestrial materials, that they can't study it. So that's the claim right now. Give it some time, let people dig more into this. It's fascinating, man.
I want to talk to you about the story of the crystal skulls themselves because there's this strange sort of folklore attached to them, and then there's a lot of people that believe that it's all horseshit and that these were created by modern people and buried underground
Yep.
in order to...
Well, my understanding of it is there you go.
Sure, again.
Yeah, indeed. That's just the citrus model, the crystal driver. There were 13 heads, and it was purported that the Navajo, the Anasazi, the Mayans, the Aztec each had one. The most famous one is the Mitchell Hedges skull, which was found in the Yucatan by Anna Mitchell Hedges. She reached into a cave. She was with her grandfather, and it was around 1926, and she reached in, and there was an oilcloth covered item in there, and she pulled it out and opened it up, and there was the 2-piece detachable jaw Mitchell Hedges skull. Beautiful skull. The Hewlett-Packard engineers did a test on it in the 60s. They said it could not have been carved by a lapidary, by tools. It had to have been polished over hundreds of years, over centuries, to get to the shape that it was. So they said it was a polished item. Let's see. There's the Mitchell Hedges skull, the Phyllis Newman skull named Max. She says,
was it later decided by some people that this was not the case?
I'm gonna get to that point because, of course, it's important. It doesn't affect my business whether they're fake or not. These were beautiful artifacts. He created it beautifully, but it's nice to know the true story, and I have a kind of thought on the theory either way. So there's the Phyllis Newman skull named Max. She has to put it in the closet because it talks to her. There's one.
Wait. Hit the brakes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to hit the brakes a bunch with you. You're an excellent talker, sir.
Oh well, inoculated with a gramophone needle at birth. I could talk a taxi dispatcher into a vow of silence. I could talk an air raid siren to scrap.
And you're obviously Canadian because you said slag.
Yeah, there you go.
I see Canadian gals. You have the term.
Oh, so wow. That's another tangent. Canadian gals and Canadian guys. So the Philip Newman skull, she got it. Its name is Max. She has to put it in the closet because it talks to her, she said. So there's the Mitchell Hedges.
Has it?
Yes, she does. Phyllis has that one. Then there's the Mitchell Hedges skull that's in Indiana. The man that took care of Anna at the end of her life eventually had it and got it. It sat in Grafton, Ontario for many years, and I never saw it, but people said when they walked into the room and she uncovered it with the cloth she kept it in, that there was an immediate feeling of well-being and healing coming over to look at the original Mitchell Hedges skull. There's one in Mexico City. It's one of our minis. It's got a cross stuck right in the top of it, which is, that would shatter crystal if you did that. How that cross got there, I don't know. There's one at the Smithsonian in Washington, and two at the Smithsonian, Washington, D.C., and one at the Victoria and Albert Museum. So there's supposed to be 8 that we have and 5 that we're missing. The woman at the Smithsonian who has the 2 there, I think they're a cloudy orange one and a cloudy green one, and they're smaller. She says they're all fakes, that they were carved by a lapidary in the 1800s, and that he seeded them around the world. Well, wait a minute. I think one was found in Tibet. One was found in Ohio, we're hearing, at the Serpent Mounds.
Why did you think this one gentleman did it?
Because he was an expert lapidary. He had the tools to do it. And she figures, her theory is that they're not artifacts polished by tribal hands and passed down, that they're all fakes. But it's just, wait a minute, he would have had to have had an airship to go and deposit these wherever they might be around the world. You can get pictures of the skulls up, the Smithsonian crystal heads, and the Smithsonian crystal heads you can get in Victoria Albert crystal head.
Do they all have the same similar type of markings?
There's theirs. Yes, they do. They do. They all have the same. Now, some of them are more are clearer. See, there's one at the British Museum. And there's some that are clearer and are more beautiful, and there's some that are rougher, like that one there, and the green and the orange one. But she says all fakes. But if they're all fakes, how did they get to these different places around the world, and how were they found?
Well, here's the thing. But why fake? The word fake is very strange because it's like they are certainly real carved crystal skulls.
But
so
were they
real.
From tribal ancestors?
Who
the question.
made them? Is the question.
Who
were
made
they
them?
From modern Western
and
people.
How? Were they polished or were they carved? That's the thing. Aren't they beautiful? Oh God!
What do the indigenous people say? They say they found them.
The Navajo say they came star children. That they were brought down and deposited and given to them as crystal ball devices, scrying devices too.
What's that one down there, Jamie? Keep scrolling where you were.
The green
one on
is
the left,
beautiful.
The one on the left right there that looks almost like a real skull. Oh, it is a real skull.
Yeah, no, the green is beautiful. So I guess, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a professional historian, I guess I have to trust the lady at the Smithsonian, but then I question, they were found at different times in history around the world. How do you go and seed? How do you deposit them there?
Why did she believe that? Has she given a coherent reason why she thinks that they're all hoaxes?
Analysis, whatever they've done, to their skulls. But again, the Hewlett-Packard engineers took that Mitchell Hedges skull and they said this have not been abolished. It would have been cracked or destroyed. It could not have been built by tools. It would have been destroyed. It had to have been polished. Yeah.
So, but what about some sort of a very fast-moving drill with a diamond bit on it that can slowly grind down?
Well, then that would be there'd be marks that would be visible under the scanner. Couldn't
you pop?
I think that the intensity of the Hewlett-Packard scrutiny revealed that there were none of those marks, and that's why they were able to make their claim.
Here's the problem with this. Like, you want them to be real, right? Don't you?
Oh, yeah, I love
me too.
the legend.
I do too. I do too. But I don't. It's me.
No, neither do I.
So when
that's
I
why
hear,
I say openly.
when you want to believe you, I want them to be from the sky people.
I do too, but again, you've got a professional in Washington at our National Museum there who says no, they're not.
Yeah,
so.
but what does she know?
Well, we could
She might be
forget
one
her
of
name.
them
We should
party
get her on the phone.
She might be a party pooper. She
Well,
might be one of them ladies.
I think that she's in love with the Scots, even though they are, not polished in her mind. I bet she loves such as we do.
But the thing is, if you are a professional intellectual or someone who's a curator of fine artwork and ancient relics, you kind of have to be one of those people that dismisses anything preposterous. Because if not...
That's right, like Neil Tyson. Don't you love him? No way you can sit down and say Neil and Betty Hill were abducted by a flying saucer in 1957. He's not going to accept that. Because he can't accept that. Because everything in his training, everything in his knowledge, everything that he knows about physics and science and propulsion in the universe and how to get from place to place defies defies the legend, or I would say defies the theory that there are extraterrestrial advanced ships out there. He can't accept it. It's just, it would be unprofessional for him to say, okay, there's even a possibility that there were abductions. But
the Barney Hill story is very interesting, but there's no real evidence other than their testimony. Is that correct?
Well, there was a stain on Betty's dress. There's her excellent recall. He was unconscious.
What was this, her dress that's so interesting to
It was a fluid that they used in the testing, that some kind of a fluid,
the
a chemical.
alien testing?
That they did. They drew ova from her and they drew sperm from him. Now, so there's a book out called Contact by Stanton Friedman.
I read that.
Kathleen, I'd love to know where the car is. Where the Chevy they were driving.
Oh, it
Where
disappeared?
is that? I don't have to ask Kathleen where it is. Did it end up in a junkyard? Because there were marks on the back of the car as well. There were trace evidence in the back of the car. You know, Ted Phillips he goes around the world collecting trace evidence and radioactive signatures from sightings and landings. On the back of the car, there was a couple of marks, but it was it's their credibility. Why would they want to bring this into their lives? And she was conscious. Semi-conscious through much of it, and Barney was not conscious. He was unconscious. If you hear the tapes of Ben Simon's interviews with them under hypnosis, the screaming and he was just so frightened.
Yeah.
And the Zeta Reticuli map, when the Betty looked at the map and the being showed her a map as she was on her way out the door and may I take this, and the being was going to give it to her, but then another one said no. You can't have this.
Zeta Reticuli is exactly the same place where Bob Lazar says they found those with the spaceships that they have at Area or S4.
Little Grays, Zeta Reticuli, Barney and Betty's abduction. You had Marjorie Fish, an amateur astronomer. She took the memory of Betty's. Betty drew up the star map, and she did a three-dimensional scale model of that part of the universe and was able to identify Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 and accepted by astronomers. So that map that Betty saw aboard that ship had not been seen on Earth before.
And Betty has no history of astronomy, no studying it?
No, none at all. And interesting things like when they got back to the house, they're open and the keys to the house were on the table with leaves, so they might have dropped them at the site, and the beings returned them. Now, you know who Bud Hopkins was? He said that he studied the Linda Cortile case, where the woman was floated out of her apartment building over the East River, and Orange Orb picked her up.
Tell people he was the guy.
Bud was he was a graphic artist, he was a designer, a painter, and a lovely man, and he was one of the first people to start to deal with the trauma of abductees. He got a reputation for being able to interview them, hypnotize them, interview them, and get their stories and empathize and sympathize with them. And he said that in some cases that he studied, the beings would grab a man from somewhere in America and grab a woman and out of their cars, out of their clothes, put them up, test them, draw ova, draw sperm, fluids, whatever they were doing. And then the woman would wake up in the man's shoes or a different car, or almost as if the beings were finished with them. I don't care where they go now. Yeah, put them back, that kind of thing. He said that was the oddest phenomena.
Like release.
That's right.
If
Well, I
you
think that's
catch
it.
you catch a big rainbow trout and you're fly fishing and you got a barbless hook. Most people, if you go to Montana, go to the Gallatin River, Shout out to the Gallatin.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous place. People catch and release because they appreciate that the trout are there. They'd rather go buy halibut from a store and not eat the fish because they want the salmon to be healthy. They want the trout to be healthy.
Well,
so they
love
catch
that.
them. And then they release them. But if you're a brown trout, well, brown trout are invasive. But if you're a rainbow trout, and someone catches you, and they take you on some 200-yard run down this river as they're trying to draw you in. It's a big 9-pound rainbow, catch of a lifetime, right?
Beautiful time.
And some guy pulls it on, it takes pictures of it, like shows it, and then releases it. And then this thing's like, how the fuck did I get here? What am I doing outside of my universe? What am I doing in this other dimension of air where I can't breathe?
Precisely. Yeah, and that's that's catch and
Catch
release.
and release with people.
Travis Walton says, you got to think of them as just people from over there. They're
Yeah,
just
he's
people
the
from
guy
over
the
there.
Five Sky movie was based on.
Yeah,
He's got
yeah.
another interesting story. Here's
Yeah.
what I want people
credibility
to think.
and credibility with Barney and Betty. I just don't think they're lying, and I
Well,
don't think the Ariel school children are lying.
I don't want to think they're lying. This is the problem that I have with it. I want to believe them. But this is what I want people to consider, because most people that are pragmatic, reasonable people that don't want to be ridiculed, they look at these stories and they go, oh, come on, people are full of shit. And I've been there too. But I want people to imagine that if aliens did occasionally visit Earth, how often do you think this would take place? And how it would be very infrequently. And if it was happening, these would be completely unique, unusual occurrences out of nowhere where someone would come down, they would do something, and they would be leaving the person with this thought and this memory and this inability to describe it with normal words. If you were taken aboard a spaceship and you were some reptilian beings that were 3 feet tall were running experiments on you and you were paralyzed, and then they released you back on Earth, what words do you have available to you to describe this experience in a way that, like, if you tell me, hey, Joe, I went whitewater rafting with my kids. It was a great time. It was so fun. We got to see eagles, and it was gorgeous. And then we had lunch at this beautiful little cafe. What a great day. I can envision this experience. I can see it. But if you tell me, hey, man, we went camping, and I woke up, and some alien had a finger in my
The
ass.
Allagash, the Allagash incident, they went camping and they disappeared.
Quite a those, right?
There's hundreds of thousands. And here, I brought you a book. This is Bruce Maccabee's book. It's all the headlines from 1952, 432 reports given. And I'll address your specific question about people, how relate their experiences and how genuine they feel in a sec. 432 reports given the Air Force in 1952 on aerial sightings, ships from other planet. We've got memos from the here. Former Army pilots sees flying saucer by daylight, whatever was cited here. July 30 stories, fighter pilots at Newcastle say alert for more reports. These are newspaper.
Yeah.
That's yours.
Well, news never lie.
Well,
I don't know if you know that.
Well,
they never make fake stories.
Well,
they never talk shit about people.
The
They
New
never
York Times is pretty reliable. Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keene are reporters for the New York Times, and they've been studying this phenomenon. They report very clearly on it. I'll tell you how an abductee's experience is related. I attended a lecture at the Fifth Avenue Medical Institute in Manhattan with my wife a few years ago. That would be about 15 years ago. And John Mack was the lecturer. You know, he wrote the book Abduction. He was the Harvard psychiatrist who wrote Abduction. You can get that up to John Mack.
Yes, I read that as well.
Yeah, and
that freaked a friend of mine out. She was a very pragmatic, non-UFO believing person, and we were working together on news radio. My friend Maura Tierney. And she came up to me and she goes like, this book is freaking me the fuck out. And he wrote a second book as well. Didn't he die in a car accident?
John Mack,
I believe he died in a car accident.
Stepped off in a small town in England, and he was struck by a car.
Yeah.
And 3 other John Macks died the same day in England.
So you think people were whacking John Mack
well,
too much?
I don't know.
Let's take
Again,
them all out.
I was at this lecture, and there were 300 abductees there. That some who he'd interviewed with, some he had not, but who were there for interested to find out more about their experience. And one guy got up and said he had one arm, and I don't know whether that was related. I don't think it was related to the experience, but he said, I'm a Wall Street bro. I'm quite well off. I have a sailboat. I was in Long Island Sound a few years ago, and a blue light hit me, and I had missing time of about 5 or 6 hours. But in it, I have filtrated memories of beings addressing me and telling me that I was powerful and influential and I could help the planet survive. And they put me back in my ship, and I woke up, and And he said, I'm waiting for them to come back. I want them to come back. And I asked the room, I got up and I said, of all of you who've been taken, how many of you would want to repeat the experience or have it happen again? And about half of them said, no way they'd want it to have it happen again. And half said, yeah, we'd like it to happen
Half.
again. Yeah. Half, yeah.
Now, I love a
So
good
Bruce signed this to me, and I'm going to give it to you. And
Oh,
it's
thank
just got
you.
great headlines from the 50s, which was a massive time for saucers. You know that famous
Yeah.
photo, saucers over the Capitol, the glowing lights, and yeah.
See if you can find that photo, Jamie, because it is quite
Yes,
interesting.
July 1952, Washington
Do you
sightings.
think this was initiated by the detonation of the atomic bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where they decided, oh, these fucking monkeys are doing some stupid shit. We need to go down there and see what's up and see if there's imminent danger to the cosmos. Let's find out what kind of capabilities they have. Because if you listen to Lazar, or if you believe the work of Zecharia Sitchin, or any of the people that believe that human beings were engineered, that there's the reason why there's this giant leap between us and the rest of the primates on the planet is because something came down and manipulated our genetics.
Well, the movie Mission to Mars with Tim Robbins, basically it says that. Basically, it shows the face on Mars, and that is one of NASA employees' favorite movies. Yeah, they're.
Yeah.
1952 UFO incident. Thank you very
Look at that
much.
photo. That is
Isn't
a
that
crazy
beautiful?
photo.
Come on, let's go here now,
That's crazy.
folks. Yeah, that ain't an airplane. That ain't a helicopter.
No, it's a crazy photograph, and it's from 1952. I mean, the special effects back then were incredibly crude.
No,
and
that's
this was something that was reported by
1,000 people.
people.
They scrambled jets from Andrews for it and everything.
as well
But
as the lights.
the
Those
Phoenix
another-
is fascinating because the Fife Symington, the governor, said he saw them. He made fun of it with an alien.
Yeah, but he
dummy.
talked about afterwards.
Yeah.
He was put under pressure to do so.
Yeah.
He's in a movie called, what is it? There's a documentary on Netflix. It's available that he's in. That he talks about the pressure that they put on him to make light of that incident, and he talks about his own personal experiences with seeing some sort of triangle-shaped craft that was enormous, the size of several football fields. It was flying overhead, that was completely silent, and how it freaked him out. I think
The triangle and delta crafts are very, very interesting. But the Tinley Park incidents of the 80s, and with Saranto as the investigator from MUFON, these things would park over the family barbecue for about half an hour, and families in suburbs were looking up at the sky being blotted out by these things parking above them. So, I think it comes down to. I don't think these beings. Lord Hill Norton said there were 23 different species visiting the planet in 23 different types of ships. I don't think they want a formal relationship with people on Earth. They want an informal, secret relationship. I think they probably have one with elements of black elements of the Air Force and the government. You know who David Sarita is?
I've heard it.
Sarita. You should have him on. He's very knowledgeable about this. His theory is that the Roswell event may have been precipitated by the Trinity explosion because there was such an interdimensional disturbance of the atoms being split and that explosion. There was that saucer there that went down in 47 may have been influenced somehow negatively by that explosion. Now Stanton Friedman didn't buy that. I loved Stanton. He just passed away there. He was an expert on Roswell.
Yeah, I'm up that I never got to meet him before he died.
He was so credible
an
and
interesting
great.
guy who believed in UFOs, but believed most people were lying about them.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he believed that there was a lot of horse shit going on, including Bob Lazar. He thought Bob Lazar was full of shit.
I again went out there and do that and compromise his life.
Well, let me tell you something. After him for 3 hours and then
Incredible.
having dinner with him the night before, I used to believe I had the best bullshit meter in the world, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten more honest. I didn't see anything. He's an incredibly smart guy, and he's not a guy who's like seeking out attention, and he's not profiting from this. And in fact,
just his demeanor, everything. Jeez, he's like an accountant.
he's a legit scientist.
Yeah.
And I've talked to him. One of the things that I engaged him with when we had dinner, we talked about science, just science in general, and we talked about all sorts of different things. And he's a scientist. He's a legit scientist. I've talked to a lot of them.
Yeah.
I know what kind of person he is.
And they just again there. They rated his nuclear isotope.
They think he has mint 115. That's what they think.
Wouldn't love to have that.
Yeah, that's what they think. Some artist created that thing up there with element 115. And,
element 115, indeed. Well, if you
just-
get a little sliver of that,
Yeah.
that would be pretty exciting. Yeah.
He talked openly about it in the 90s that he had managed to weasel some away from the Area S4. and they think that he still has it.
Yeah.
There were some experiments that he had done that George Knapp had actually filmed that had showed some really bizarre distortions using this stuff, and then it was able to. I got to remember exactly what it did that they showed, but they did some experiments with like steam or smoke or something like that, where they showed element 115 emitting some sort of
Vapor.
well, no, it was emitting some sort of a field.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
where
okay.
you literally couldn't physically touch this stuff.
Mm-hmm.